Count how many times in the last year a founder has pulled you aside and said, "Can I just pick your brain about our tech stack for 20 minutes?" If you're a senior engineering leader, the honest answer is a lot. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Every one of those conversations you are doing for free is the exact things companies pay a fractional CTO $5,000 to $15,000 a month to do. That's the realization sitting underneath this search of how to become a fractional CTO. You're already the person founders turn to when technical decisions get scary and expensive. The only thing missing? The structure to get paid for it. In the next few minutes, I'm going to give you the 5 steps that turn your technical expertise into a paid fractional CTO practice. The advisor versus CTO line. Picking your stage and stack, packaging your leadership as a retainer, and finding where the demand hides. And of course, landing your first client without botching contracts and IP. So let's get into it. When most engineering leaders think about going fractional, they picture high-end freelancing advisory calls and architecture reviews billed by the hour. That's exactly the trap. To become a fractional CTO, you're not selling your hours as a senior engineer. You're selling technical leadership. You own the roadmap, making the hard build versus buy calls, leading the team, and taking real accountability for whether the technology supports the business. You stop being the smartest contractor in the room, and you start being the embedded executive the founder leans on. And by doing that, by choosing a specific kind of company, packaging your leadership into a retainer, and you will protect yourself with the right structure. The first thing to get crystal clear on is the line between a fractional CTO and a technical advisor, because that line is worth a lot of money. An advisor gives you their opinion. They join a call, they review your architecture, they tell you what they would do, and leave the actual work to you as a team. A consultant is similar. An assessment or a recommendation deck handed over. Neither one owns the outcome. A fractional CTO is fundamentally different. You own the technical decisions and you're accountable for the results. You own the architecture and the roadmap. You manage the team and you call what to build, buy, kill, and who to hire. When the system goes down or the launch slips, you're not the advisor who warned them from the sidelines. You're the leader who's responsible. That ownership is exactly why a fractional CTO commands an executive retainer, while an advisor gets a few $100s for a call. So if you position yourself as an advisor, you're going to get paid like one. Position yourself as the owner of the outcome, and you will get paid handsomely. The second step is to pick the stage and stack you serve. For a technical leader, this niche has 2 dimensions. The first is company stage. A seed stage startup trying to ship its first product needs a completely different tech person than a Series B company drowning in tech debt. At seed, you're making foundational build versus buy calls. You're helping a scrappy team ship their MVP. At scale, though, you're untangling years of shortcuts, hiring senior engineers the founder has no idea how to evaluate. Those are 2 very genuinely different jobs. You need to pick the one you've actually lived in. The second dimension is your stack and domain. Maybe it's machine learning infrastructure. Maybe it's fintech, where security and compliance are everything. Maybe it's high-scale consumer mobile. Maybe it's AI. The more specific you are, the more obvious your value will become. A founder doesn't want a CTO. They want the person who's already solved their exact problem at their exact stage. Your job is to become that person out loud. Here's how that sounds. Not, hey, I'm a fractional CTO, but I help fintech startups at Series A get through SOC 2 and rebuild their data infrastructure so it survives the next 10 times jump in volume. One of those is going to get scrolled past. The other, they get the founder reaching for their calendar. The third step is how you package what you do. And the rule is simple. Sell a retainer, not an hourly rate. The instant you put an hourly number on your time, you've told the buyer you're a contractor, and they compare you to every freelance developer and offshore shop. That's a race to the bottom you're going to lose, and one you shouldn't want to win. Instead, package your technical leadership into a retained engagement, typically 1 or 2 days a week for a flat monthly fee where you own the technical direction. Or scope a defined offer like a 90-day architecture and hiring roadmap. Either way, the buyer isn't paying for hours. They're paying for the confidence that someone genuinely senior is finally steering the technology ship. And retainers protect you too. They smooth your income, make your calendar predictable, and signal that you're an executive partner, not a task rabbit they ping when something breaks. Price the leadership, never the clock. The fourth step is knowing where the demand is, so you're not searching blind. It concentrates in 3 places right now. First, funded startups that have just closed a seed or Series A round, flushed with cash, aggressive goals, but most importantly, investors who want a seasoned technical adult in the room to protect what they put in. They're looking for that grown-up in the room. Second, scaling companies that have outgrown their founder as CTO. A handful of engineers, no senior leadership, and the cracks are already showing. Missed deadlines, mounting tech debt. And third, companies in transition where a CTO just left and they need someone to stabilize the team and the roadmap immediately. But here's the multiplier that most people miss. The VC and private equity firms that fund these companies are constantly hunting for trusted technical operators to drop into their portfolio. Build a real relationship with a few of these investors and they'll place you in company after company. So stop looking for a job posting, start looking for the funding announcement, the head of engineering role that sat open for 2 months, and the sudden executive departure. Those signals are public if you know where to look. The fifth and final step, landing your first client and getting past the contract and IP basic rights. And as a technical leader, this matters more for you than almost any other fractional role. Your first client is often very close and closer than you think. It's very often the founder that's been picking your brain for free, or a current or former employer who'd rather keep your judgment 1 day a week than lose it entirely. Start there. But the moment you have that client, you're touching their code base, their architect, their intellectual property. So your paperwork has to be airtight. You need a real master services agreement and a statement of work, plus crystal clear IP terms. The client owns the code and the systems you build for them, while you retain your own reusable frameworks and tools. And protect your own back. Check the non-compete and the IP assignment from your current employer before you take a client in an adjacent space. And never build your fractional work on their laptop or their time. And again, I'm an operator, I'm not a lawyer, so have an attorney set this up, but form an LLC and carry some errors and omissions insurance because you're making technical decisions that carry real risk. So becoming a fractional CTO is about turning the technical judgment you already are giving away for free into a structured, well-paid practice. You own the difference between a fractional CTO and an advisor. You own the outcome, not just the opinions. You pick the stage and stack you serve, so you're the obvious choice instead of a generalist. You package your leadership as a retainer, never hourly. You hunt the real demand, funded startups, scaling companies with no senior tech leadership, and the investors who fund them. And you land that first clients with contracts and IP all buttoned up. Do those 5 things, you will stop being the engineer everyone calls for free favors and become the fractional CTO they actually budget for. But here's the catch. Every technical solo operator runs into. You can be the best fractional CTO in your niche with clean contracts and a beautiful retainer offer and still stare at a terrifyingly empty calendar if you do not have a reliable way to generate clients. Landing your first client through a warm relationship is easy. Landing your 5th, 6th, 10th predictably without having to go back to a salary job, that's the real challenge. I broke down exactly how to build that pipeline in this video, the system behind the predictable pipeline for fractional executives. Go watch that one next, and I will show you how to keep your fractional practice full for good.